So, why am I excited that capital ships are getting specific capital ship missions, or rather, missions designed around the idea of using a capital ship? Because as we heard from CIG, they said, hey, maybe you can use some Super Hornets, get a group of Super Hornets together, and you can pull that off and double your reward. Why am I excited by that? Well, there's a few reasons. First reason, really, and I think the biggest reason of all, is convenience. Now, let's say you're a pirate, you own a capital ship, you get together with your buddies, and you're like, hey, everybody, let's all pile into my Polaris or my Hammerhead, and let's go out and pirate together. Sure, great, fun. But, the way piracy is going to work out, it's hard to say exactly how it's going to work out in Star Citizen. But I highly doubt we're going to be at a point where it's like, hey, I'm out pirating in a Hammerhead or a Polaris or an Idris or whatever. Is there anybody out there in a suitable cargo ship that would like to get pirated by us? Oh, sure, here I am. I'm over by OM5 around Yela. Now, 50-50, that's either a trap or a complete moron. Probably more leaning towards a trap, though. But having those missions there, it allows you to say, hey, I can get together with my buddies on my ship, and no matter what, there is always something to do. There is always going to be something to do with that ship. And that's an important thing to have in a game, is you never want players to kind of sit down with whatever class, whatever ship, whatever mount, however your game is designed, whatever tank, whatever aircraft, whatever. You never want them to come in, log on, and say, I have nothing to do. I have nothing to occupy me. And you have to understand that in an open world PvP environment, you may not always have the most convenient choices available to you. It's important that you can at least have something to do, that you can click on a mission tab and automatically see missions and go, okay, now I have a selection of different things that I can go do. So even if I wanted to PvP, but maybe now is not the best time, maybe there's an anti kind of PvP squad patrolling the system, I still want to play the game. Now I've got something to do. Now I've got something to occupy myself. Now, one of the other drivers to this is, of course, the financial incentive, that kind of financial backstop where you can kind of control and make sure that operating a capital ship in the Star Citizen universe is profitable. Because you have to understand that in order for capital ships to be a functional element in the game, they have to be profitable in some way. Not only just to maintain them, not only to just keep them loaded with ordnance, but to pay the people who are going to man them, because there has to be some kind of incentive for someone to get aboard your ship, some kind of financial incentive. If they're looking at their own finances and they're thinking about their own goals, they're saying, I want to buy this ship, I want to buy that ship, I want to go get this, I want to get that gun, I want to get this armor. All of that requires money. And if they are crewing your ship just for the quote-unquote fun of it, then they're not really progressing towards any of their goals. They might hang out for a little while, but they're probably going to be sitting around and having their own ambition and kind of thinking, what do I want to do next? So there has to be a reason for them to man that capital. There has to be a financial incentive. Now, you could argue that, well, just having that capital can open up certain doors to you in the randomness of the universe. You could go out there and say, hunt a Vanduul ship and reclaim it, and then you could earn all kinds of rewards from that. But that's something that's random. That's something that may occur, that might happen. But what you need to do is you need to offer concrete, guaranteed incentives for people who are going to man your ship. I mean, you might sit there and say, oh, well, I just think that good things are going to happen to me, and I bought this ship, and I hope that, somehow the game provides, and people will just want to hang out on my ship just for the fun of it. Well, if those incentives aren't there, then the reality might be something completely different. However, when you have the backstop of a deterministic reward system, something like that in place, you can tune that, but you can set it to a point where someone might say, let's say you've got an Aurora MR and you've got things kind of dialed in, so you're like, well, I can pull in maybe about 2,000 alpha UEC an hour with my Aurora MR, and I can slowly chip away at my goal of getting a Hornet or whatever is next on your, on your list of ambitions. But if someone says, hey, why don't you come crew my Hammerhead and I can guarantee you 10,000 credits an hour, or maybe 5,000, a more reasonable number, 5,000 credits an hour. You're doubling the rate at which that person's progressing to their goals. And now they have certain responsibilities pulled away from them, certain things that they don't have to worry about. And then they take over, let's say, engineering or a turret or shields or something like that. And they take over some duty like that on your ship, or just providing, ground support when you have to land, someone with a gun who's going to help guard you, that sort of thing. People will sign up for that because this is the faster way to my objective. People will clamor for those types of roles. People will compete for those types of roles. And that's the kind of system that you want, especially in a game that has multi-crew ships, and so many of them. Now, many times in the past, of course, there has always been the argument that Star Citizen is pay to win, right? That's always been a heavy-duty argument. But it kind of ignores one fact of life about the Star Citizen universe, is that you can kind of fly and get around in your multi-crew ship, especially your big multi-crew ship, but crewing that successfully by yourself is going to be a very difficult thing to do. And there may be certain things out there that AI can't really accomplish with any real success. It's something that would be too cumbersome to micromanage for yourself, having to send these commands to AI, don't do it this way, do it that way, because that's how we're going to achieve our objective. Those sorts of things may not work with the AI in the game, and it's better to have an actual person in that role, someone that you can talk to who is going to understand everything that you say and is not going to simply sit there and wait for you to give inputs telling it what to do, when to do it. Whereas you can say to a person, don't light off our sensor ping until we're within 5,000 meters, whereas an AI just might light it off randomly or on a regular schedule, and then you would kind of have to go in and kind of micromanage that and say, don't do it now, don't do it now. Whereas a person, you only have to tell them once, they listen, they do it. And if they don't, well, you don't bring them on your ship anymore because they're kind of, a potato. Or, or whatever type of vegetable they choose to identify as. So in the end, when you're buying one of these larger ships, you're buying, in a sense, a real vehicle in the game, but you're also buying a metaphorical vehicle for yourself and for your friends to kind of carry yourselves forward, carry you towards your ambitions, to earn your rewards, to have fun in the game. I don't really see it in a pay-to-win scenario, because there is no definite, if you buy an Idris, you trump everybody else in the game type situation. There are certain ships that are better than other ships on average, but having that ship doesn't preclude you from ever losing, and doesn't guarantee you that you're just going to win every fight. So that's kind of always, when I look at the Star Citizen pay-to-win argument, I say, a pay-to-win argument, you can see it in certain MMOs, certainly, with some of the items that you can buy, or certain other games like World of Tanks. There's certainly one or two that stand out, none that immediately come to mind, E25, that are overpowered and would certainly qualify as a pay-to-win. But in the end, because vehicles are going to work differently in Star Citizen, and you're really going to need that multi-crew, simply purchasing that ship doesn't guarantee you a quote-unquote win. And so creating a system, a deterministic reward system in the game that not only rewards the owner of the ship, but rewards the crew of the ship as well, and rewards them well enough to kind of give them incentives to kind of put their life in another player's hands and say, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to get so much more rewards if I was just playing by myself. That's the type of system that I think that with missions, that they're kind of putting in the framework where they can create a system like that, something that encourages and incentivizes people grouping up together, maybe not even just in a squadron of fighters, but to populate a capital ship and succeed that way. In the end, you kind of want to foster a system that encourages capital ship use, and not just in a player versus player sense, but in a general sense in the universe. You want to see a wide variety of ships flying around the universe, and you want them to have utility, and you want people to be encouraged to bring out their best ships, and you want to have that stuff out there. You don't want someone who's gone and bought, let's say, an Idris or a Javelin. You don't want that person sitting in a station looking at their ship and go, man, I wish there was something for me to do with this ship right now. You don't want someone to ever walk into their hangar and go, shit. So having systems like this, having missions in place that allow these ships to be used is something that, I think is very important. Now, as for pirates using capitals, I think, well, this video is, it's starting to run a little long, and that is, I think, an entire video unto itself. So I think I'm going to tackle that tomorrow. But yeah, having missions that are designed around people using capitals, I think that that's a good idea. I think that that's something that kind of lays the groundwork for encouraging, cooperative play amongst players, and in a way, it's almost an incentive to join an org. Let's say an org leader says, hey, I've got an Idris, and someone might look at that and say, oh, that guy's got an Idris, blah, 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 whatever. But if someone looks at that and says, shit, I can crew that Idris, and I can double the amount of money that I'd be earning on my Aurora or whatever, I could really earn a lot of money working on that guy's Idris. That is, in my mind, that's kind of the ideal that this game in general would want to reach for. Like, they would want to look at those ships and say, hey, if you're willing to go out and kind of merge your schedule in game with someone else's and work with them towards that goal, then you can achieve some pretty amazing things that way. But yeah, pirates and capitals, we'll deal with that tomorrow. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.